Egor Ryjikov.
I would start with what happened 12 years ago in Shanghai. This old building with tower in downtown Shanghai is where my love affair with Seasteading started. 12 years ago, I came there for a modern art exhibition. Later, at roof observation desk, when I had a cup of coffee, I was stunned by panorama view of all infrastructure that they have built around Shanghai downtown that time. It looked for me really impressive, and it made me think of old Shanghai districts that were removed, of of the cost involved, how long would it take to build something similar somewhere else on Earth, outside of China. And then suddenly a very unusual idea came to my mind. What if this kind of impressive infrastructure could be built on water, floating buildings, floating islands, maybe in high seas, from scratch, without issues of scarcity of land, without existing regulations towards zoning, etc. To have a complete freedom of to create basically an ideal city, and this idea really startled me. I remember this moment very well, and ever since I just keep thinking of. I had been thinking about this. And the image I had in my mind was a perfect combination of 5 elements: water, plants, earth, buildings, and air, existing in a complete harmony. What if we could build something as beautiful as Venice? And it would be as modern and technological as Singapore. But is it feasible? It was the first question I got. Well, I questioned myself, because I never heard of this that time. And when I start my amateurish research of this subject, very soon I realized that, we have cruise ships with thousands of people there, with all sorts of modern amenities. We have massive oil platforms that could withstand storms, that could operate in the most violent and unfriendly seas in North Sea, where they have icebergs and a lot of ice. There already exist structures which are more than a kilometer of floating bridges. And this is a bridge I visited, and we inspected this bridge with Professor Wan a few months ago in Norway, and it's been in operation since many years. It has very reasonable costs. And it's already a proven technology. So I got really, and this engineering aspect of this potential massive opportunities, what really intrigued me. And it set me on paths of searching the best engineering approaches to make it happen. Why it's happened? Because in fact, this is what I have been doing through my professional non-Seasteading working days for the last 18 years. I have been founding and running engineering and production companies where engineers are searching developing and implementing new industrial technologies. As Pascal mentioned, me and my partner group of 16 companies employs now around 600 people. These people develop robotic automated lines, ERP systems, they produce CNC machining centers, special medical ultrasound equipment, custom-made electronics and industrial tools. About myself, I'm serial entrepreneur, inventor, business angel, father of 2 boys, the Seasteading ambassador, and a co-founder and vice president of engineering at the Blue Frontiers. And Blue Frontiers is a company that will develop, build, and run hopefully some of the most beautiful floating islands. Islands of the future, or one may say Islands 2.0. Talking of the future, in the next part of this presentation, I would like to share my views on the key technologies, future trends that might influence islands. Over the years working with various industrial technology, I realized something very profound, that basically it's possible to predict future. So, how to do this? There exists a not very sophisticated way to see future development of technologies. To do so, you just need to look at industrial technology, current technologies in industry or in narrow professional fields like aerospace, defense, maybe medicine, and then try to think how they may apply to life outside of these specialized venues. And it's also useful to think how they may combine with other technologies or other business models. For example, from this perspective, it would be possible to see appearance of autonomous cars already 10 years ago, because already at that time, one would see many of them working in automated warehouses. There is another approach by William Gibson, who said the future is already here, it's just not very evenly distributed. And I should probably then say that unfortunately, the small island states are underserved technologically. After this event in Shanghai, I became very interested in island life. And I traveled to Seychelles, I traveled to Maldives, to Mauritius, traveled between different islands. I was very interested to see how people outside of fancy resorts live. And I saw, and behind these fancy, famous resorts, I saw islands that have very serious issues, and it's really left me disturbed. And rubbish was not the only problem. This is the way rubbish is getting processed right now without any concerns with environment and any modern waste management practices. And it's happening on thousands of islands all over Pacific and other seas. There is also, we would see it very often, that very expensive electricity have been generated on many islands by means of diesel generators. Also food, all these islands depends very much on imported food, and I guess delays of a week or more might really disrupt life on many islands. Well, this is example with UK, but I guess that with many islands there are much more miles. Bananas and oranges and strawberries need to float. I realize that also many islands, they got in this vicious circle when the small island states, they spend huge amounts of currency to import fossil fuels, food, and building materials. And this creates negative trade balance that results in lack of funds for purchases of new technologies that in turn results in continuation of unsustainable and environmentally damaging practices. So, other solutions. Oops. Yes. Yes. So, but these solutions not yet arrived to the islands. And in fact, I should say that I'm very optimistic about the way technologies are going to change life on islands in the near future. And I will tell you about this in a minute. There is also not a coincidence that the solutions that we have been searching as seasteaders are going to, they're going to be useful for island communities and coastal states. If we are to change our land-based view, one of the natural resources island nations have is an abundant space on waters. And this abundant space may, with the help of technologies, may translate into abundant, clean and sustainable energy. So these technologies already existing. These technologies namely are, I was not aware of this. Okay, so these are, floating solar, floating wave, floating OTEC, floating wind, floating current energy generation. And all these technologies results in this abundant, clean and sustainable energy. I'm sorry for this format problem. Out of this energy generation technologies, I would like to underline this particular technology of floating solar farms. They fit very well to their to island conditions. First of all, this scalability of solar farms could be virtually unlimited, but I'm not talking about protected waters, I'm talking about areas outside of protected waters. There is also a very interesting and very strong trend of solar panels getting cheaper. Price per watt have already dropped more than 70% from year 2010. They already have made, and solar is already more economical in production than new diesel power generators. And also, if I calculated correctly, the latest wholesale contracts for solar power in Chile and Emirates are more than 12 times cheaper than in Polynesia or in many other island states. So these technologies are already there and more or less are ready to be implemented. There is also a very interesting synergy. Solar panel which is placed in water or cooled in some other ways may increase its efficiency by more than 20%. Yeah, it's possible to build this large, ever-enlarging solar farms, but then the question, well, we will get this lot of energy, but then what to do with all this energy if you are thousands of kilometers from big markets? And this, of course, a very nice problem to have. And I would like to touch, these opportunities there. First of all, if we have combination of these factors, abundant energy, abundant space, so we may very easily get abundant potable water. And with all these three factors, we might think of very efficient floating agriculture. It's not seen here, And also, robotic agriculture is a huge trend which we are going to see very soon. In my company, we do robotic integration ourselves, and I should say that technologies are there. Robotic arms are getting cheaper with every quarter. There is also vision systems are getting cheaper. There is also algorithms are getting available, and this is going to be a very huge trend, and I think it would be very impactful for island states who need to import a lot of food items, thus damaging their trade balance. And on a large scale, we might say that, well, this is self-sufficiency which might solve problems of hunger and, as I mentioned, positive trade balance for island nations. So there is also, if we have abundant energy and seawater, what we can get from this combination. In my hand, I keep a sample of this concrete piece, which is quite strong. It could also float in water, and it's made out of seawater. And basically, this material is just a production of this material is a combination of a number of solar panels and seawater brine. Production of also this material could be potentially used by 3D printers to print buildings, or maybe even floating platforms themselves, or maybe to build, if we have plenty of energy, plenty of very cheap energy, maybe we can even build another layers on these small islands to lift them up. There is also, if we have abundant and also by definition inexpensive energy, we can bring this circular economy on islands. There is another sample I have in my hands. This is a super insulative material. Also, it's not coincidence, it floats very well. This material is a foam glass, and this foam glass could be produced out of crab glass. It could be also, next month we're going to make tests with basalt sand, and it's again, this is just a matter of having enough glass, sand, and electricity, and this local production of building materials could be done on small islands. Also, there is no need to build very huge plants to make them efficient. So this is one of the technology I'm very excited about, and this is a technology that might in future result in massive production of floating islands. In Russian language, we have a saying: if you have a problem but could solve it with money, this is not a problem, this is just an expense. And I would say that from engineering point of view, most of the problems could be solved by energy and a bit of automation. As an example, this issue of seasickness and this instability of staying at something floating platforms that people have at cruise ships, and maybe some people would have at even a large platform. So there is one way is to make very large floating structures, but there is also another way. This is adaptive approach using high-speed computing and a little bit of servers. This is so-called Stewart platform with 6 axes, and I would speculate that even during very strong storm, this platform could safely hold your beer without spilling even a drop. So these adaptive technologies might create perfect living conditions for people. So this is same also goes for air conditioning that we are using for many years. So technology definitely could make our life comfortable on islands. There is also a number of other extremely important and very promising trends. This is this circular economy. This is sharing economy. Autonomous delivery drones, autonomous ships, floating data centers. But just this would be too much to mention even in this 30 minutes long presentation. So what we will see if we would combine abundant resources, internet, and people. I can safely state that then we are to see self-sufficient, sustainable, productive, and comfortable life offshore. And this would this combination would result in significant growth of seasteading communities and also wealth of island nations. Life on seasteads could be good and comfortable. As above mentioned, synergies are there, technologies are there. Some of them may be at the moment a little bit expensive. Very soon we will get them implemented. We will experiment with them at Blue Frontiers. But also, there is another reasons why these technologies are very important is because there are a lot of less fortunate people who could benefit from the seasteading technologies. And we indeed want to change their realities in order to change our common reality. Here I would like to quote Buckminster Fuller, who said, "You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete." Floods, sea level rise disrupts the lives of millions of people. Floating housing and floating agriculture are immune towards incidents of flooding and could mitigate sea level rise. There is also a very disturbing trend of loss of arable land. There is also, but in combination with population growth, it's creating serious issues in many countries, and land scarcity translates very soon into food scarcity. I also should mention hunger. It's such a shame that in 21st century we still have hunger. There is also this overfishing, because these old fishing practices damage oceans, damage ocean ecosystems. It's known that 80% of world's fish stock are already been exploited. Water shortage, it's been predicted a long time ago that probably very soon we are going to enter the age of water wars. But we see from technology point of view, potable water is just again a combination of technology and energy and seawater. So this is this issue could be solved yesterday if we would like to, if we made an effort. So pollution, this is another issue, and there is a very frequent question: why floating islands? Why not? Do whatever you want. Why don't you do this on existing natural islands? And answering this question, as a co-founder of the Blue Frontiers, first answer is, why not? And maybe second would be the Seasteading Institute we see quite a great demand from people who would like to experience life on water, to experience sustainable life on water. And also I'm one of those, and I'm going to invest my money, and I would like to live with my family at least for some period of time on water somewhere, and I know many people who would like to. They would put their money, and they would like to do the same. And as I already mentioned, the third reason is that we see underserved market, and we see a great need for new technologies to bring sustainable, clean technologies to island states, to small island development states. So there is one engineering approach that I would like to underline. This is modularity. This modular type of modular concept allowed us, first of all, to start small, to see real conditions of actual site. It would also allow us to create incremental growth of these floating platform systems. Also, this modularity would allow a very interesting social concept called dynamic geography. Basically, it means that, for example, here, if there are people in this part of community like to make parties every evening, and you don't like this, you just take your platform and you attach it to here or here, where you have people with families, and you would like a different type of environment. So you don't need to use politics. You don't need to use a lot of new regulations. You just vote by your feet or by your pedal. So you pedal away to another community. So you create communities, and or you join other communities. So it's this is a very good example how technology may solve this traditional political problems. Also, modularity allows to do a mass production of standard elements to reduce costs. And this is exactly what we want to do. We want to start small platforms. This is one of the renderings. Some of the prototypes already exist. For example, this platform was developed by our Dutch colleagues from Blue 21, and it already floats in Rotterdam. This is a conference center. First platforms could be some platforms could be more like residential. Some of them would be more like public spaces. But I would like quickly to list main requirements for the platforms that we have in mind. So first of all, it should be seaworthy and safe. It should be safe in ocean lagoons and in coastal waters. Also, it should be affordable in production materials and maintenance. Also, production should be possible to automate. They should be connected internet sensors and also to other platforms. There should be zero emissions. Nothing goes into water. They should be certifiable and insurable. They should be comfortable to live permanently in terms of noise, movements, and elements. They should be aesthetically appealing from onboard and from outside. They should be also modular and reconfigurable for incremental growth and for the dynamic geography. They should be durable. They should be recyclable, and hopefully one day they also would be self-replicable. So we would be able to build new platforms not on land, but on a master platform. And we have, maybe not for the first platforms, but we have idea to make them wheelchair, bicycle, and runners friendly. So in the next couple of years, we're going to dive into extensive research and experimentation with technologies and architecture concepts. So some of these, well, first platforms might look very much like natural islands. And with this, I would like to resume and say that as a seasteaders, we aspire to be the change that would improve the ways of living on water. And I would like to invite everyone on board. Thank you.